If you're trying to stay healthy this winter, these are the foods that actually help and a few you need to avoid. Let's start with a food that packs a big zinc boost. Pumpkin seeds. Why is zinc important? Well, I think we all know after the last 4 or 5 years, zinc along with vitamin C and vitamin D are essential for boosting immunity. Well, a serving of pumpkin seeds has a whopping 20% of your daily value of the zinc. By the way, zinc also helps your white blood cells function well, and they're very antifungal. Fun fact here, look at the amount of manganese and potassium and iron you're getting. These are incredibly nutrient dense. The con, they could be expensive. Let's talk about sunflower seeds for a second. Compared to pumpkin seeds, they're way more economical, but still incredibly nutrient dense. You're getting around 15% of your daily zinc and nearly 70% of your vitamin E in just one serving. That's a solid deal. Now, quick warning, always check the ingredient list. A lot of sunflower seeds are coated in seed oils, and those oils can be inflammatory, which is something we want to avoid. Zinc is great on its own, but it becomes even more powerful when it's paired with something else, and we'll talk about that later in the video. Let's move on to kefir, which is actually drinkable yogurt. Let's see what it says right here. Live and active probiotics. This is a fermented product much like yogurt, which we'll talk about later on. And because of that, there's billions of living probiotic bacteria in here that help your gut. My friends, think about this for a second. 70% of the cells that make up our immune system live in the gut. So we have to foster a healthy gut and microbiome. And it's really important to pick whole milk kefir and whole milk dairy because what lives in the fat of the dairy? Omega-3 fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory. These brands right here would be my favorite for 100% grass-fed dairy because grass-fed over grain-fed has more nutrition for you and I. But the type you pick really matters because when you get flavored ones like vanilla, they have cane sugar to the tune of over a teaspoon. And cane sugar, which I'll show you later on, kills your gut bacteria, which is the opposite of what we're trying to do. And remember those zinc-loaded sunflower and pumpkin seeds we talked about a minute ago? Kefir helps your body absorb the nutrients in those seeds. Next up is one of the most immune-boosting foods you can eat, raw garlic. But be warned, no one's gonna kiss you for a good 24 hours after you eat this, which could be a good thing if you might be sick. Anyway, inside of this is something called a compound allicinin, and as soon as you chop it, crush it, or chew it, it releases that compound. And boy, oh boy, my friends, it is incredibly antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial. It stimulates the white blood cells in your body, including the killer cells, and their only job is to attack the cells that have the virus in here. But pro tip, as much as I love the fresh garlic, some people like the simplicity of pre-chopped or pre-peeled garlic. Nope, it doesn't work. As soon as you start to break this down, all those beneficial compounds go away. It's gotta be fresh, and it's gonna burn oh so good. And garlic is really important, but it ties really closely to the benefits of honey, which we'll talk about later. It's time to touch on a food you need to avoid when you're sick. It's cane sugar, which is not as easy as it sounds because so many of the foods at the grocery store, especially in the middle aisles, have sneaky amounts of cane sugar. But when you're sick, cane sugar temporarily inhibits immune system cells and suppresses your immune system for hours and hours. It weakens your white blood cells. Cane sugar is linked to inflammation. When you're sick, you already have elevated inflammation. You don't need it going even higher. And do you know what cane sugar does? It kills your healthy gut bacteria and then it feeds the bad ones. So when you're sick, you have to avoid it. But like I said, it's harder than you think because yogurt is good, as you'll learn about later on. But when you have a sneaky 9 grams of added sugar, which is over 2 teaspoons in your healthy yogurt, it defeats the purpose in the whole first point. And you'll learn about that when we get to number 1. Up next is omega-3 rich foods, which help manage inflammation when you're sick. And like we just talked about, when you are sick, your inflammation is going to be elevated. Well, say hello to canned salmon. So the recommended daily value of omega-3s is about 500 milligrams per day. What does this say right here? A serving of this has a whopping 622 milligrams. And pro tip, wild salmon is going to have a much more elevated amount of omega-3s than farm-raised, because farm-raised have a man-made feed of grain. You always want to go wild cod, and economical too. Forget about the fresh one. Canned pink salmon for $4.99 is the way to go. And this is going to make a lot of sense when we talk about the next food, which is fermented, like sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickles. These are incredibly beneficial. Why? Look what it says right there. They're fermented foods. Fermented foods are loaded with billions of probiotic bacteria. Remember, 70% of the cells that make up our immune system are in the gut. Now, does that mean that this sauerkraut is bad? No, but look at the ingredients here. It's cabbage and salt. They oftentimes have vinegar too. This is fermented a long time, so you get that probiotic bump. You can also find those in my favorite refrigerated pickles that are fermented too. The more fermented foods you get, the better it is for your gut. Up next is vitamin C rich foods. Mama was right. Eat your vegetables for many reasons, but things like peppers have an enormous amount of vitamin C. But fun fact, did you know that all of these peppers are the same species? There's no difference except for the time they were picked. So green peppers are picked the earliest, which is why they have the lowest amount of vitamin C. Still a decent source, but why not get the highest? Which means, where do you go here? To orange peppers. These are aged the longest, so they have the highest amount of bioavailable sources of vitamin C, which means you don't always have to rely on capsules for vitamin C. Also, broccoli and cauliflower, excellent sources of vitamin C, but I want to look out for your wallet too. So maybe instead of buying fresh, go over to the frozen department. You can get frozen broccoli, and it breaks it down in the back here. A serving has a whopping 60% of your daily value of vitamin C from vegetables. Cauliflower florets, a serving has 45% of your daily value of vitamin C. That's what you want. Vitamin C from real foods to boost our immune system. And don't skip ahead. The food we talk about next, in my opinion, is essential, especially during the winter. It's Manuka honey. The difference between Manuka and any other type of honey is that the immune boosting properties for you and I are so much higher because of the MGO score. That stands for methyl glyoxal. That's the active compound in Manuka that makes it so immune boosting for you and I, because the bees feed on the Manuka flower in remote parts of New Zealand and Australia, and it's raw. So it's incredibly good for us. You can stir it into tea, you can take a teaspoon yourself if you're feeling worn down, but pro tip, please do not stir this into just boiled tea because it's so hot. It can kill some of the living compounds in there, and we don't want to do that. And this kind of ties back to the active ingredients in garlic that are so antiviral and antifungal. The same thing with Manuka honey, which is super duper important. The next thing you're going to want to avoid when you're sick is seed oils. The dreaded seed oils like sunflower oil, like canola oil. Well, this is the stuff we grew up with, and it's been in the news a lot lately. They're inflammatory. But when you're sick, you're already in a state of inflammation. And have you ever noticed how all the seed oils have the same golden color? The reason they're inflammatory is they're processed to death. They're loaded with free radicals that cause even more inflammation. When you're sick, the easiest swap ever would be like, oh, okay. If I'm gonna have a fat, I'll have extra virgin olive oil, which is anti-inflammatory. Now the thing is, it's a bit trickier than it sounds because almost everything in the grocery store has it. Organic dressing, sunflower oil, nice looking marinara sauce, sunflower oil. So when you know to avoid those things, you're going to do your immune system proper, like we're going to do next when we talk about gut-friendly foods. If we're going to talk about our gut, you have to talk about bone broth. Restorative to immunity and gut. How do they make bone broth, whether it's beef or chicken? They take the bones and they simmer it with aromatics for 24 hours, and you extract out of the bones minerals, collagen, gelatin, and something called conendurin. All of that is incredibly restorative to your gut. There's also ancillary benefits too. The collagen and gelatin make our skin look and feel great. It can make your joints feel great too. And those fortifying minerals are very hydrating, especially when you're sick or dehydrated. Now, there's a big difference between bone broth and regular broth. Chicken broth is just made by boiling chicken pieces with water and aromatics. Not bad per se, right? Grandma probably did it. But adding bones to that really brings in those gut restorative things that you need. And you can just drink it like a tea in the morning. It's especially good for a gut-friendly diet. Next up, we're going to talk about something that is very good for your gut, in addition to avoiding things like seed oils that are hindering our gut health. There is a reason why you always see people sipping on a cup of tea when you're sick. But what if I told you a type of tea could be far superior to the other one, especially when you're sick? Stick around for a second. But the reason why tea is so great, it's fermented. These are tea leaves that are fermented. So they're actually very high in antioxidants and polyphenols. But I love green tea, and green tea has way more antioxidants than black tea, especially one called catechin. Why? Why would the green one have more? Because it's not fermented as long. The more you ferment a black tea, it's not bad per se, but some of those immune-boosting polyphenols and antioxidants lower. So green tea is the way to go. But most grocery stores only have them in tea bags. I don't like tea bags. They're usually made of plastic and we don't know the quality of the tea inside. Go online or go to a coffee and tea shop. Get loose leaf organic tea. It's delicious. It's superior. And when it comes to being sick, that's what you want to get. And speaking of things you want to get, I'm going to talk about something you want to avoid next up. And don't skip ahead because number 1 ties everything together. Before we hit the number 1 food for immune boosting, let's talk about another thing you want to avoid. Vitamin C. That's kind of crazy, right? It's because the majority of the vitamin C's at the store are not very high quality. Check your vitamin C at home. If it's made with ascorbic acid or calcium ascorbate, that's synthetically made from corn. The foods we talked about earlier, remember the broccoli, the peppers, the cauliflower, those are bioavailable, real food sources of vitamin C. This comes from synthetic corn, usually GMO, and it's not fully bioavailable. If you're looking to supplement vitamin C, just go on Amazon, get a bag of acerola juice powder. That's fully bioavailable. This one is my favorite, Flav City Vitamin C. You'll see it's made from acerola, camu camu, and amla berry. Fully bioavailable, or just eat more vitamin C rich foods and save your money when it comes to this stuff. Now let's move on to the number 1 food. Now, we can't talk about foods that help us not get sick without talking about the OG of yogurt. We've talked about fermented foods throughout this video, but this is so beneficial because once again, there's billions of living probiotic bacteria. We know the cells that make up our immune system live in the gut, but also a strong gut lining promotes general healthiness and immune health. And a lot of people who eat inflammatory foods and bad diets can suffer from leaky gut. Eating probiotic-rich food will help support a strong gut lining. Now, I believe you are what you eat. So the best we can do for yogurt would be stuff like this. 100% grass-fed and whole milk. Fat is good, especially when it's grass-fed dairy, because what lives in the fat of the dairy? Those anti-inflammatory omega-3s. But sometimes yogurt can be dessert. But when they add cane sugar to the tune of 18 grams, man, oh man. First of all, that's over 4 teaspoons of cane sugar. And what did we say earlier? The cane sugar negates the healthy gut bacteria and feeds the bad ones. So that is it, my friends. When it comes to fermented foods, antioxidant-rich food, all those great foods that help us stay healthy this winter, and equally important, the foods to avoid that actually weaken our immune system. If you know other foods, drop a comment down below because we all want to stay healthy. But that's it. See you all in the next video.